Hi, this is Thomas, Medicine Team. Well, I'm just going to talk about different ideas that have been coming to me this morning. Okay, just now I was talking. We have this bed and it loses its sheets. It's a large bed, don't have fitted sheets for it that fit. And been coming up with a way to attach the sheets to the bed. So what I came up with today is have two strips of cloth, about 2 inches wide perhaps, the width of the bed plus enough to go up the sides, and then sew two little 4-inch strips of cloth onto the sheets as to make a hole. You could put the straps through that and attach Velcro, positive and negative sides of the Velcro to the straps, and that way you could secure that sheet to the bed. Makes life a little easier. That's good. I feel like stopping now, but I think I'll just go on with more ideas. I've been eating my azomite clay with activated charcoal, with spirulina algae and cinnamon, or cinnamon. I don't know if there's cinnamon. I think I've seen it spelled both ways. Today I prefer cinnamon. But if you prefer cinnamon, I'll say it that way just to humor everyone who thinks that way as well. So I went ahead and I coiled the wires around a pen to create a spiral effect. I saw on YouTube many years ago, just looking up different life-giving health ideas. There was a man in Germany who was a forester, and unfortunately at the time there was industry just being developed where there were people mining and cutting down the forests and whatnot, and he noticed that there was a lot less. He grew up in the woods with his father being a forester and enjoying the wild space of the woods and the babbling creeks and the birds and everything. And he noticed there was, after the forestry, the creeks would change course before they would meander, and after they became straight, there was less visible to him. You know, he didn't hear as many birds, he didn't feel the effects of nature as much. So this led him to believe that nature travels in this meandering or spiraling, curving pattern, and that life, that on the level at which he could function and notice life, has to be attracted, has to flow, have this spiraling or curving nature to it. And so he developed a bottle that, instead of water being ladled out, being poured out of a straight pipe or whatnot, and drinking out of a bottle, that, sort of like when someone drinks their tea or their coffee and they take a spoon and they stir in their sugar, they stir it and then they drink it. That's kind of the same effect. You're stirring that pot, you're circulating it, going in that spiraling, circling motion before you drink it. That motion is communicated through the rest of the cells of the body after it's drunk. So he developed a special bottle that you could turn upside down and the water would spiral, and then you could drink the water. Great. Awesome. So the same thing with creating a magnet. One way of creating an electromagnet, supposedly, is you take an iron bar, you wrap it with copper wire, and you send a direct current through it. And that aligns, there's the direct current flowing through the copper wire. And I'm trying to figure out why, because if the copper wire is touching the magnet and the copper wire is touching itself, why doesn't the electricity just jump across? Why does it follow that copper spiraling wire, which it needs to do which it does when it's creating the magnetic effect? But what it does is it follows that spiraling wire, and the more coils you put around your magnet, the stronger the field of the magnet is. That's interesting. Someone taught me how Nikola Tesla would use that to create a spark gap where you could vary the frequency of the spark gap. So you would change the coils of wire and the voltage, and that magnetic force would increase with more coils of wire and decrease with less. And when you put a stronger magnetic force across the spark gap, which Nikola Tesla created, supposedly it would increase the rate at which the spark was being generated, and so that would increase the frequency, because the rate is the amount of times per time that the spark is activating on and off. And then that's the same thing as frequency, because it's the number of times per amount of time that it's activating. So the frequency, when you change the frequency of the spark gap, different effects would come into the room. He told me, well, you know, he's researching Nikola Tesla. Sometimes a certain frequency you would get, the room would light up with a light. At other times, at a certain frequency, Nikola Tesla would be able to stay awake for 3 days at a time. Other times you get tired. You know. So there are different ratios creating different effects, just like different notes, different sounds, different musics. You know, your body, your mind, it's going to respond accordingly. You know, different frequencies of light, wavelengths, hertz, whatnot of light. I was just watching a video about spectrometry, trying to research that. So, but the different frequencies of light and sound have different colors, you know, associated with them. And the different colors have different, you know, in foods you might have reds in the hibiscus flower, or reds in different potatoes, or reds in the rose hips, you know. So the rose hips and the hibiscus are high in a lot of good things, including the vitamin C. So maybe there's vitamin C with the red. I don't know. There's the cayenne pepper, a lot of the dark, and those are all good for the health. You know, the different colors are associated with the different frequencies of light, and also with the different chemistry, the different biochemicals, the different vitamins that are coming into foods. So those are ways that we input through our senses, through our eyes, through the different colors of the rainbow, the prismatic effect of light, and we view that through different means, through our eyes, through chemistry, through biology, through electricity, through magnetism, through hertz, through whatever ways we can think of, because you know, you look at the big elephant and you see the trunk, and the tusk and whatnot. We see part of it, you know, and we're here to see all of it. You know, we want to see as much as we can, be more, see more, do more. At least when we're in that state of mind, we can go back to a relaxing state at times and just say, well, let's experience a relaxation state, you know. But at other times, we're trying to expand our consciousness and our awareness of how things operate. So, getting back to the nutrition. So back with the spiraling wire effect. So why does the spiraling wire around the magnet or the iron create that magnet? And what is it going to do when I put it into the azomite clay with the activated charcoal, with the algae, with the cinnamon, with, was there anything else I put in? Oh yeah, I put in acacia gum as another. The acacia gum is from the acacia tree. Frankincense is a type of acacia tree. We use a lot of acacia in our foods in the United States. It's an additive to a lot of different products. So we have marshmallows, we have sodas, Coca-Colas, different things like that. Then we have soups. It acts as a shelf stabilizer. It preserves the stability on the shelf of the food. It is also, there's been done some recent research on it. It is a emulsificant which can hold the colloids of fat and water together. So in a high shear rotor, you can create a small particle size of fat suspended in water. And to maintain its suspension, you just add the emulsificant. So in this case, the acacia gum, the tree sap, the acacia tree, which will suspend that fat in the water, I suppose, indefinitely. It's used for a lot of other emulsificants as well. We bought it from someone who sells it for use for printers. They buy it to attach ink to the paper. So we were able to obtain a good price on it that way through, I think it was eBay. Emailed some guy, I think he was on the East Coast, maybe Boston or somewhere. It's a Chinese last name, but he answered the email and we asked him questions about it. You know, why does it cost less through you? But then he just didn't want to get into legal issues with eating it, but he says, I eat it myself, you know, it's fine, but I'm not going to advertise it that way. So we bought it. It had some essential oils on it, but after a month or two, those essential oils, the smell had worn off, and so it works fine. It's a little paler than the stuff I was buying at Ambica Foods, the Indian grocery store. My EBT stopped working there for that because people were saying, hey, what if that's good for him? He shouldn't be using it. I don't know why they would say that, you know. We need to take responsibility for our choices of foods, and any way we can do that individually takes the burden off of everyone else and allows us to experience the life we choose. Life is about making choices and helping other people to make wise choices so we can succeed together. You know, the raft helps us float to the top, and we're here to support one another that way. At least that is one view. You know, I think that's an optimistic view. This the one, you know, different founding fathers said, together we stand, divided we fall. So if we stay together, if we support each other in different ways, and I think in supporting each other and making wise choices, you know, teach a man to fish. So there's a lot of good things to be said for that. Stoyan was able to buy some acacia gum from me. The acacia gum reduces the LDL, reduces the cholesterol, helps with colds and arthritis, and it stabilizes food. And what else does it do? Stabilizes the colloids of silver for photography. That's how the first photography, that according to Wikipedia, that's the black and white photography used a silver colloid suspended by the emulsificant of acacia gum. So what it does is it's supposed to be very beautiful under the microscope. I've never looked at it, but I would like to sometime. And it transports nutrition. So I find it's very useful for putting on the skin, and people use it for skin lotions as well. So this is, if you mix the acacia gum with the water with small fat particles, suspended fat by oil, vegetable oil, that mix in a high shear rotor. So a high shear rotor is a blender, and there's one blade that spins and one blade that's stationary within the same blender. And that blender, then it gets the water rotating in that spiral motion with the fat, and then when the fat particles hits the stationary blade, it becomes a small fat particle, a small oil particle, at which point with the emulsificant, it will be suspended as a small particle. Somehow the emulsificant maintains that size. When that then it can be used for wiping down counters, say in a kitchen or whatnot. If there's bacteria there, those small particles of oil, supposedly they will contact the bacteria. If there's virus, it'll contact the virus. And when it does, the surface tension, the theory is why it happens, but what happens is it obliterates that, it decomposes the bacteria and virus. And the theory is that the smaller the particle of oil or of water, the higher the surface tension. I don't remember reading about that, but I remember in science class we would look at if you have a small tube, like say a straw, and you put water on it, you could tell that the surface tension was higher because of some effect. So the smaller the area, the higher the surface tension. I'm not sure if that means that it's higher per volume or higher in general. I guess it's per volume. But if the small particles of surface tension contact a virus or bacteria, it draws away the virus and bacteria don't have the cell walls. So that's why it's totally safe to have around our flesh, because we all have cell walls, and those are stronger structures. They're mineralized, silica or whatnot. And I suppose is a protection against the surface tensions. But when the surface tension of the small particle contacts a bacteria or virus which don't have cell walls, then it sucks away the exterior part of it, and it's left defenseless. That's the theory. So that's kind of interesting, you know. So that's food grade disinfectant. You know, it's okay to put on your skin. It's okay to put on the counter. You don't have to put harsh chemicals on. It's just harsh to the bacteria and virus. And you can eat it. So that's all from acacia gum, oil, and water. Nice. And a high shear rotor. Okay, that was interesting to me. Hopefully to whoever spent this much time listening. Let's see. Interesting. I'm looking at the musical instruments here. This is where I've been playing my music and posting it up on SoundCloud. And I'm following, my mind is following my eyes. So I'm looking at the food I was making, the azomite clay and whatnot. I'm claiming now that I feel a lot stronger, able to focus. I'm going through changes. I had to sleep for a while, and then, you know, I feel like my stiff neck is becoming a little more mobile, you know, this and that. Different areas. I noticed the first time I used this mixture, I could start moving my right shoulder more than I had before. I had to relieve myself, which was supposedly a good health sign based upon a doctor I was talking to who graduated when he was 23 from an accelerated class. He was selling blueberries with probiotics at the Center for Spiritual Living. And then Eric and I were there, and I talked to someone there who retired from the military, and all three of us had had some contact with different people who were involved with Sikhs group, the Yogi Bhajan group. He'd actually been taking classes in New Mexico from, this is the guy in the audience, you know, this retired military guy that attends there with us. And he told me the story. He's like, oh, you mentioned Yogi Bhajan or the Sikhs or whatever it was he was talking about. He said, I'd like to tell you about, you know, he was taking classes with this lady, a guru, someone, and she invited him to summer solstice, and he went, and they sat and did some, hold the hands in different positions, looked in each other's eyes, and said the white tantra yoga. And yes, I did that finally. My uncle Mahakalpa had joined Yogi Bhajan's group years ago and changed his name. And my grandmother saw him and said, "Hey, Gary," and he's like, "That's not my name, you know. My name's Mahakalpa Khalsa." So he invited me to you when I was growing up. He's like, "You should, you know, it'd be good for you to come out to our summer solstice, and you know, you will find a partner, and you can do the white tantra yoga." And so a couple summers ago, it took me that long. I made it out there, you know, but I didn't see him there. But there were a lot of people still there, even though Yogi Bhajan had passed on. Eric had gone out there as a teenager, and he just took the car and drove out there and to New Mexico at it's called a Gurdwara because there was a man, Yogi Bhajan, who was their guru, and so they made a Gurdwara, or the dwelling place, for the living place for the guru. So people were living there, you know. There was a farm, and people would donate him gold and different things, and someone else would take care of it. He would donate it to other people, you know. But right here, my aunt said that India and Pakistan had, when Pakistan was created as the modern Pakistan, that land area was part of India, I assume. I know it all goes back. There's different religions. There's the Hindus, the Sikhs, the Muslims, and the Sikhs were living there predominantly living there along that border region between the two areas, and when India and Pakistan were created, they had to leave. A lot of them had to leave. So the story she told me, Mon Kiran told me, is that Yogi Bhajan led a group of these Sikhs on a hike across India, and he eventually made it to the United States and didn't have much with him, but he started this group, the 3HO group, which is my uncle joined, and my cousins Mahan Kiran and Gurumrit both lived in his ashram in Florida, and went to school in the Himalayas with the 3HO school there. I believe it was 3HO school. In any case, it's a Sikh school. I don't remember their name. They did at one point invite me to attend it with them, but they said you'll just have to learn to wash your clothes in the river. I didn't have a problem with that, but it just never made it out there. So Eric drove down to visit them for a wedding. I think it was with Gurumrit's wedding, and at the Gurdwara, and he lived with people there that let him stay there, and he told me that he wished at one point that his friend, see if I can remember his name, Surya, his friend that he was staying with, Surya and Eric lived in the same little apartment, part of the complex, part of the building there for a while. I don't know how long, and he offered Eric a large jeweled ring, and Eric said no at the time, and then later he said, I wish I'd taken it, but just a few stories I've heard over the years, and eventually Eric had to come home, maybe because of a health reason with his foot, which I was able to help him with. Yeah, I think what he said is that what my mom told me is that Eric had been trying to study the Holy Scriptures, the Guru. The book's called the Guru, and so he would go in and read it out loud, and people were like, it's probably Yogi Bhajan's or someone else's role to read that, and are you really a guru? And so they locked him outside in the snow one day to see if he would demonstrate any Guranic properties of being able to walk around barefoot in the snow, and he got some gangrene, so they sent him home on an airplane. And my mother was like, hey, I don't know what to do with this foot. It's got gangrene on it. I don't want him to die. So she had us both put in a hospital, and I didn't find out about it till there was a Sikh man and a man who was training to be a part of the ministry of the Catholic Church, who told me, hey, your brother's got gangrene. If I did know about it, she thinks I did, it had slipped my mind. I don't know how that would slip my mind, but I didn't know. But, so I just, prayed to God. I'm like, okay, what can I do, to help with my brother's gangrene? And I received an answer. If you pray to your intuition or your guidance, to your higher power, or your whoever you call it, people call them by different names, but essentially it's a part of who you choose to accept as your, just the word qualifying force. So your guru, your God, your divine idea of who you are. In any case, it's just a voice, and I ask it, what can I do? And he says, well, through sympathetic, because I've been reading about on Encyclopedia Britannica about prayer, and magic and whatnot, and sympathetic vibration. Walk around with bare feet. So that's what I did. I walked around with bare feet, and his gangrene got better, and people said, congratulations, his gangrene's better. That's good. yeah, the guy who was studying for the Catholic Church ministry, he was already a retired person, but he just wanted to do this, and he told, and the Sikh doctor, I think, that said, "Congratulations, you know, your brother's better now. It worked." Because I told people I was gonna walk around bare feet, and it started to started maybe get a little foot fungus on there, and then that went away, and at that point, that's when the gangrene went away too. So that was nice. And let's see, I guess I'll just end there.